Hey guys, Pent here, and because we're about a few days away from the live release of the Stranger Things Part 2, Chapter 2, to Infinity and Beyond DLC coming to Dead by Daylight, I'm going to give my thoughts about all the new content that is coming to live from the PTB. Now, this PTB has quite a few firsts. So I've decided that because it's also the first patch of the year in 2026, I'm going to start making content this year about my thoughts of what is new to the PTB and also what things already exist in the game that are getting changed for these PTBs. So you can expect to see that from now on. But first, I'm gonna have to cut this intro a bit short so that another fellow veteran Dead by Daylight player who does a lot of man-in-chair talks about patch notes and updates and things that they like about the game content does not give me a copyright strike. So the main components of this new Stranger Things Part 2 update is the fact that we are getting 2 survivors, 1 killer, 9 perks, and for the very first time on the PTB, a 2v8 with changes to Chucky and Nemesis, which we'll talk about later. So at this point, I'm pretty sure everybody around the world knows that our newest killer is Vecna from Stranger Things. And he's actually a pretty cool killer, in my opinion, both to play as and to play against. Now, the way that Vecna works is that he has both a small ranged attack and a map traversal attack, where it's kind of like Wraith, where he goes into a mode, moves around fast, undetectable, and a lot harder to see. You actually come out in this giant area of effect attack, which is avoidable by the survivors, but it can be pretty tough, especially if you've already been cornered or zoned. The grandfather clock system is pretty cool too. It allows you to basically take some time out of his mode where he's allowed to hurt you. And it's not completely countering it though, because there is that last little chunk that you cannot deplete with the clocks, which I think is pretty cool. He's an extremely unique killer. It almost reminds me of Nurse, where a lot of the time it comes down to holding W because he's a lot slower than a lot of other killers. And a big thing to remember is to keep putting objects between you and him, breaking line of sight, so that he cannot attack you accurately through walls. I would say the only real thing that's an issue for him that I personally have is the fact that he's a little bit spammy. I feel like adding a second to his attack cooldown and maybe buffing him somewhere else just a bit to make up for it would be a pretty good change. I think he's pretty much at the perfect power level right now, so I wouldn't want them to do too much to him. But yeah, I really do feel good about this killer right now. Now, moving on to the killer perks, I actually do think that they did a pretty good job with these ones. It's not too often that we get a killer where all 3 of their perks has a bit of a moment to shine in the sun. The first perk that I'll talk about is called Turn Back the Clock, and basically, you hook a survivor, and for 60 seconds, you have the ability to blow up a gen with your goddamn mind. You just walk around it, you look at it, and poof, it loses 10%. So no need to stop and kick the generator or anything. You can just go right on about your day, whether it be chasing somebody or patrolling to the next generator. You do need line of sight for it to work, but I do think it'll be a great perk regardless. The next Vecna perk that I'm going to talk about is called Secret Project. So basically with this one, whenever a totem is blessed or cleansed, a random generator is going to become blocked for 30 seconds. It's more about fueling the second part of this perk, where when 1 or more generators become blocked, you gain undetectable for 30 seconds. Now this is pretty nasty, and it's the part that I love. Gen blocking perks are usually already pretty good, and being able to trigger 30 seconds of undetectable when you want to is amazing. I personally loved using it with Thrilling Tremors, where I could consistently get value right before I hooked somebody and was able to chain into another attack. So the last perk from Vecna is called Hex Hive Mind. So essentially, the very first time that you hook somebody in the game, all of the generators become highlighted from white to red based on how much progress that they have. And this lets you know exactly when somebody is on a generator and exactly how far each generator is. Now, the big thing is that this is a hex, But if it does survive until the last generator pops, every generator will explode and lose 10% progress. So that makes it a lot less likely for survivors to just completely ignore it. So like I previously said, there are 2 new official survivors with their own perks in Dustin and 11, but we also have new legendary skins in the form of Robin and Eddie, alongside a facial rework for Nancy Wheeler. I personally think it's an upgrade over the old model, though I do think it still needs some tweaks. Moving on to the survivor perks, Bada Bada Boom from Dustin is a very funny but very hard to get to work perk. I feel like a lot of the Vecnas that I played against just would not vault ever, especially if they already saw the bomb on there. But I believe with more M1 killers, and also depending on the map, if there's very strong windows, you can get a lot of value out of this. And it even lasts longer than Chemical Trap does, which is funny because it's basically just the Windows version of it. The second perk of Dustin's that we're going to talk about is called Change of Plan, and essentially the big thing about this perk is that it allows you to transform your toolbox into a med kit once you go into a locker. Now this allows you to basically use up a really good toolbox at the beginning of the game, and then once it's useless, you now have a resource to heal yourself, despite also having a generator related perk. So it's pretty neat how later in the game you can actually just kind of poof a medkit out of thin air, heal yourself, and get to a safe spot if you are alone. Now this is the part where we get to probably one of the more disappointing perks of the chapter, and it's called Teamwork Full Circuit. So basically, for every person that's on a gen with you, your skill checks get bigger. And while you're repairing a generator with one other person, you repair it 5% faster, which these perks, you'll see this one along with the other one, Teamwork Soft Spoken from 11, are just absolutely terrible. They do not give you nearly as big of a bonus as they should in their secondary effect. And also just their primary effect is not good at all. And I'm not going to pretend I never miss skill checks, because there are some times where maybe I'm reading chat or I'm scratching my face, or, you know, just not locked in enough, I'll miss a skill check. But having a slightly larger skill check only when we are with somebody else is really, it's just not what you want compared to 99% of the other perks in the game, and I'm just not sure why it exists. If you really want a perk that speeds your repair up when you're with somebody else, run Prove Thyself, because that one gives both you and your teammate a much larger bonus than this ever could dream of. Now, moving on to 11's perks, the first one that we have here is Extrasensory Perception. Now, basically, this perk allows you to just crouch around for a little bit, and you're able to see everything around you. I mean, it gets chests, it gets totems, it gets the killer themselves. You're just able to see them. Now, it does come with the trade-off of obviously you're moving slower and you are oblivious during this, but you should be able to see where the killer is anyway, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. I will say it's a little bit strange that it becomes kind of like a power-crept version of Still Sight. I kind of think they should probably rework Still Sight and keep this one as it is. The fact that you need to stand completely still with Still Sight, but this one you can move around at least a little bit, and also combo it with a perk like Urban Evasion to crouch around even faster, just makes this one feel a lot more fluid than Still Sight could ever be. The second perk from 11 is called We See You, and essentially this perk gives you a token whenever the killer sees your aura, and once you have 4, you and your entire team can see the killer for 15 seconds straight, which is pretty good information, all things considered. You can kind of force it with different perks and items, say a key with the Blood Amber, Come and Get Me, which is a perk from Rick Grimes, and Object of Obsession can be a way to consistently be getting stacks every now and then. Now, here's the thing about Object that I personally didn't really like about it, is that sometimes I wanted to control when that 4th stack came up for a good opportunity. So I very much prefer just fueling it with the key and using Come and Get Me to immediately have full control over when I'm showing my team the killer. Now, this is the part where we get to probably one of the more disappointing perks of the chapter, and it's called Teamwork Soft Spoken. So basically, for every person that's on a gen with you, your repair noises get quieter. And while you're repairing a generator with one other person, you repair it 5% faster, which Okay, I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. I'm gonna stop the bit right there. What is this perk? Like, I'm not even using different footage. I'm using the same exact footage because the only reason I could justify using this perk was in combination with Dustin's perk. And it, like, I feel like if I just put on Prove Thyself again, which is one perk, it would have done way more than both these two new teamwork perks together. And Soft Spoken is literally just glorified Technician from Feng Min, which is a perk that literally nobody uses already. Normally I'd suggest a buff for it, but honestly, we don't really need any more generator perks in the game, so I'd probably just rework it into something else entirely. On average, though, I believe most of the perks in this chapter are actually really good and really well designed. I can't wait to see how they mix and match with other builds that I haven't even thought of yet. Now this 2v8 actually has quite a few new things to it. We have some updates to already existing classes. We have a brand new survivor class. We have Chucky coming in as a new killer. And the herbs from the Resident Evil 2v8 are coming back. They're called tonics now, but they basically do the same exact thing. Like pretty much every other killer that gets added to 2v8, Chucky does get some buffs of his own. Things like being able to turn a little bit faster, an increased duration of his slice and dice attack, and things like being able to break pallets that he scampers under. So he's definitely no slouch comparing him to his original form. If I'm being honest though, I feel like the one thing that needed some change was probably a lower cooldown on his power, because being a 110% killer against 8 survivors is not the best combo. I think we've seen that with characters like Deathslinger, who have like really good 1v1 potential, but not very good map traversal, being kind of bad in 2v8. The next killer that I want to talk about is Nemesis. So Nemesis actually got some buffs. He got 2 more zombies, so he actually has 4 zombies in 2v8 now, and they move 35% faster. He still doesn't have very much map mobility, and in the normal game, the zombies help make up for that by patrolling the map alongside him, but in these 2v8 maps that are almost twice as big as any normal map, these 2 zombies were not going to be helping him very much, and the fact that he starts in tier 1 and has to build up was just another thing that's slowing him down. So these changes will definitely help him get a little bit of extra time to build up his power in the first place. I still don't think he'll be amazing at all, especially with the new survivor class letting them spawn in with flashlights to deny that entirely new buff part of his power, but it's definitely better than nothing, and I think it'll be pretty funny to see 4 zombies chasing somebody. Speaking of a brand new class though, they've added a new class to Survivor called the Torchbearer. So basically you spawn in with a flashlight, and you also get flashbangs over a minute, which is very interesting. So you get both flashlights and flashbangs in the same class. You're able to see the auras of your teammates within 32 meters, and you could also shine a light on the killer to show them to your team for a couple seconds. Once you do get unhooked for the first time, you'll give endurance to people that you pick up from being downed, and also when somebody that's injured saves you, they also gain endurance, which is pretty neat. I think this will come up eventually in some crazy clutch play, which seems to be what this entire class is centered around, so I'm glad that they're actually taking the time to go all in on it. I really feel like they should have added new classes at this point. Like, we should have had at least twice the amount that we started with. So, unfortunately, it's a little bit slow getting there, but I'm glad that they're at least getting around to it now. Last big things about 2v8 that I want to talk about are the tonics, which I like the one that gives you a health state. I don't really like the one that gives you a full hook stage. I feel like it's very disproportionate to the value that the killers get when they get it. And also, I do like that they added a little quality of life heartbeat, so you can tell if you're within the tear radius of a 1 killer or 2 now. It's very nice. And you can see that little extra circle kind of surrounding my heart right there because I'm near 2 killers. But yeah, guys, that pretty much sums up all my thoughts that I have about the content in the PTV. It's been nice getting back around to doing this kind of content. And yeah, like I said, we're pretty much just a couple of days away from the actual patch coming out to live, so we'll see if they add in any crazy sneaky changes. Though I would actually like to see some other stuff coming, because as you might have noticed, there's not any actual like 1v4 changes other than the new content. And I completely forgot to mention, but we also didn't get a new map or map variant in any way, so that's also a little bit disappointing. Though I could see them being afraid of the community not liking a second Hawkins. Either way, I think I would have liked to see more from this PTB in terms of changing already existing content. Very glad that they're starting to look into testing out 2v8 stuff. I wasn't sure if I'd like it at first, but after playing it, I actually really did enjoy having some new stuff to try out on there too. And yeah, I think this chapter is going to be a massive success, guys. If there's anything from my brain that you guys want to know that I didn't cover in this video, feel free to comment below or ask me live on stream at twitch.tv/pentakillium. And yeah, I am going to head out here. You'll have a wonderful, wonderful time. Thank you all so much for watching till the very end of the video. I hope that whatever time it is, wherever you are, it is a good time. And I'll see you in the next one.